What does gutsy mean to you?
I think gutsy means honoring yourself. And that's coming from someone who really naturally, or maybe bred to be a people pleaser, um, bred to believe that my needs maybe don't always come first. I think gutsy is really getting to know yourself and not abandoning yourself.
Welcome to the Gutsy Podcast, the show where you learn how to own what you actually want and shift the mind junk that's been holding you back. I'm LauraAura, keynote speaker, coach, and your guide to help you get clarity, build confidence, and make the gutsy moves that change your life. Each week, I'm going to help you simplify things by teaching you how to get out of your head while stepping into action. This way you can achieve all those life shifts that you've been overthinking. Your desire, that drives you. But gutsy, that's what gets it done. If you've ever opened your closet and felt a mix of frustration, shame, disconnection, confusion, not just from your clothes, but from yourself, this episode is for you. I'm joined by Ellie Steinbrink, a stylist and mindset mentor who helps women uncover the unspoken rules they've been dressing by, rules that have been shaped by childhood, culture, and the belief that confidence has to be earned. This is not about fashion trends or body hacks, okay? This is about identity, visibility, and the quiet ways we've been taught to shrink ourselves. If you've been waiting for something to change before you let yourself feel good in your body and in your clothes, consider this episode your permission to stop waiting and start doing it your way. Ellie is a branding expert and stylist for women entrepreneurs. At the intersection of psychology and personal branding, she empowers women to take bold action and look amazing while they're doing it. She started her business Style Decoded to help women define and embody a magnetic personal style that encourages them to color outside of the lines in both their lives and in their businesses. What's wild is it's so much less about the clothes and so much more about what we think and feel about ourselves. So the clothing stuff, it all starts with mindset. Let's get into it. Hey, Ellie, welcome to the Gutsy Podcast.
Thanks so much, Laura. I can't wait to dive in.
Absolutely. So I love this conversation around style, but from a mindset perspective. Because it's not just about picking out clothes. It's not just about how you're showing up. Like there's a whole world happening on the inside. So I'm stoked that that's the path that we're going to take today. I first, though, want to learn a little bit more and share your story a little bit more. So ex-marketer turned
Mhm.
into styling expert. Talk to me about that chapter of your life and what has led you to where you are now.
Yeah, it is a interesting story and it's unexpected. It was unexpected even for me. I mean, I think to really understand it, you'd have to go all the way back to my childhood, which, style and, what that looked like as a 5-year-old was creativity. The way I expressed myself creatively was through my style. So that was in putting different outfits together and, changing 5 times a day. I'm sure my mom really loved that. Now having kids, I can, imagine that was challenging to have a kid that expressed herself in that way. But it was just a fabric of who I was, and that continued and carried on with me into my adulthood. Now, when I left college, I had decided I wanted to pursue a career in marketing. Where that landed me was in an advertising agency where I was in a client service role. And all was, I think that environment suited me because it was in some shape or form a creative outlet, and the way I could show up to work was in a very creative way as well. So I was able to flex that muscle. But I got to a point in my career, in my marketing career, where I was actually had just landed what I thought was the ultimate role that I had been gunning for, which was the director of client service. And unfortunately, it didn't feel like I thought it was going to feel. And I started to realize, it started as a little bit of a soft whisper, and also it showed up in my body that this isn't right. This isn't where I want to go. And it was a really scary feeling because if anyone's ever been in that spot, I had already racked up almost 15 years in marketing. This is what my expertise was in. And when you get that little nudge that says, this isn't it, it's really scary, especially when then it was hard for me to answer the question, well, if this isn't it, what is? And, long story short, I ended up leaving that role and through some coaching work, decided to take a next step. It was still in a marketing role, but it gave me more time and space. It was a part-time role, 30 hours a week. So whereas in the agency, I was, you know, working to the ends of my day, every spare minute I had, and all the while having both of my babies during that time, married to someone who travels every week. I was completely burned out. There was no extra space in my day. And so taking this next step, even though I knew I didn't want to be in marketing anymore, it really did allow me to apply myself while also giving myself some rest and space just to gain some clarity. And it was during those 4 years where I had a moment. It was actually, I learned how to do transcendental meditation, which is funny for me because I'm a very type A, busybody kind of person. And the owner of the company I was working with was very much into transcendental meditation. And so offered it as a gift to any one of her employees that wanted it. And I thought, hey, why not? And it was after many months of practicing that and learning how to sit still and be with myself in that way, I had a really odd experience. And I was meditating and opened my eyes at the end of the session. And clear as day, the message was, you need to start doing something about this passion you have around style. I've never had something so clear, actually, a message come to me. I believe it was God, say what you want, universe. But it was so clear that that day, I decided to use the Instagram account that I had already established as my own personal Instagram account and said, what the heck? I'm gonna start talking about my perspective on style. I'm going to, at that time, I was starting to share outfits that I was wearing and then talking kind of about it from a mindset standpoint. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to do this and I'm going to do it daily, which is also a very high achiever sort of thing. But, I'm going to do it daily until I get tired of it. It feels laborious. I'm sick of it, or it doesn't feel fun anymore. And long story short, I never stopped. About a year after that point where I started posting, I ended up losing my job due to the pandemic. And in that 1 year time, of course, as I was showing up more publicly and talking about style, a lot of the people I had been connected with, professionally in the past 15, 20 years were curious. What are you doing? Can I work with you? What are your services? And of course, I'm like, I don't know what my services are. I'm just like going with the flow here. But that information and that curiosity, not only on my part and wanting to lean in more to this, and then others being interested in that service gave me the courage then to, when I lost my job due to the pandemic, to say, you know what? I think this is the universe's shove to say, let's go, let's do this. And I'm now 5 years into the business, and my business has changed a lot over the years. But that's, yeah, my interesting and weird story of how I came to be a stylist.
I love a good story like this because the biggest thing that stood out to me was your willingness to lean in and be curious. And I think that
So difficult.
that's where I was going with that is I think that that's the easiest part to skip over,
Hmm.
especially high achieving, especially as an ambitious woman, especially as a go-getter. We just want to blast past that part, right? And just get to like,
Yeah.
let me just do the thing, except we didn't take the time to figure out what the thing is.
Yeah.
So I just want to point out like how brilliant and how important it was for you to have that lean in curiosity, putting the stuff up without expectation. that
Yeah.
that
What
allowed you to get that clarity. It allowed things to build naturally. You essentially got out of the way, but you were still the
mhm.
vehicle that was making it happen.
And what I think is funny about that is anybody who knows me know that's very uncharacteristic of me. I'm someone who really needs to have a plan. I need to know where this is going. I need to know like the end goal. And in that instance, and maybe it was because I was still working at another job and my employer knew I was doing this and she was like, hey, power to you. But I think it was a mindset shift for me that it was play, it was creative exploration. It really had no, I think to your point, had no expectations around it. And so I really did allow myself just to kind of show up very creatively and take risks and try things. But I think all of that would not have been possible had there not been such a fire inside of me to want talk about these things, to want to bring these topics to light, to want to share what I knew or what I experienced. And, over time of doing it too, I found that my lens was really a unique lens because many of the other stylists that I met through my early years of the journey, everyone comes from different scenarios and background. Mine was unique in that I had come from an environment where I was working at an agency, but also consulting with, Fortune 500 companies. So I was very familiar with the corporate life. And there was just some interesting nuances there about expectations and rules that were existing in those sort of environments, that really then had an imprint on the things I was talking about and how I could help women move past some of these areas where they were feeling really stuck with their style. And as you mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, it really was never about the clothes. It was really about the way we perceive, the ways in which we perceive ourselves, and then how we allow ourselves to either show up in a certain way or not, just based on how we've learned over the years is appropriate or not appropriate. So that became so much more interesting to me. It was less about, what are the links to the outfit that you're wearing, and more about this is a bigger transformation that's happening. And I think that is ultimately what, through my play, through my exploration, through letting my ideas flow, naturally just came out.
Yeah, I love this approach that you have. It's kind of this mix between psychology and personal branding. It's
Yes.
the inside work before we ever see the thing on the outside. So talk to me
Hmm.
a little bit about talk to me about this approach. Like, what are you
Hmm.
seeing? What's the mind stuff that's happening before? Like, bring me into the inside.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go way back to when I started because when I first started the business, I didn't know these things that I now know. But what that looked like when I first started was I would, meet with a client. I work virtually, so virtually meeting with a client, really getting a sense of what they were all about and what their style goals were. And then I would go about my business of bringing that style vision to life for them. And so I would bring that to life for them. We would be in a try-on session. And Laura, in that moment, what I saw was equal parts excitement and elation and equal parts terrified. And the reason I say that is because in one sense, the women I was working with at the time, they were like, wow, all this vision I had in my head that I didn't know how to translate into reality. You just did it before my eyes. And oh my gosh, this is exactly the version of myself that I'm wanting to present to the world. Well, then the terrifying part is that this is the version of myself that I am going to be presenting to the world. And I could see that fear in their eye. It's one thing to put an outfit on in the comfort of your, bedroom or your closet. It's quite another to have then the courage and the self-trust to then walk out into a meeting where all of your colleagues or your friends have a perceived way of how you're showing up, or to sort of rock the boat. And this wasn't always like these grand makeovers where it was like you looked one way and then you looked a totally different way, but it was a little bit more vulnerable because it was a truer version of themselves coming out, and that feels scary. And so it hit me early on, and this was within the first 6 months of working in my business, that I thought, okay, there is definitely a step here where this isn't just about going into, and I think there's a misconception definitely about style that you can just go into a store, you buy the outfit, and bam, you've got the confidence. It's like you can go and do anything you want. It's almost like you put a armor on or you put a costume on, and maybe that will work for a very short period of time, but it's not sustainable. And in fact, I know many women who try to sustain that kind of energy where I'm just going to kind of fake it till I make it.
Hmm.
And it really doesn't work long term. And so, what I realized needed to happen is that disconnect between I have a vision and I want to make this a reality and I want to start showing up in this way. There were rules and expectations and standards that were preventing us from actually making a successful transformation. And so, what that looked like, Laura, is okay, let's say I have a vision that I recognize that I want to show up in a different way. I recognize that maybe I'm wearing oversized clothes to maybe hide my body, or maybe I'm wearing neutral colors so that I just kind of blend in. And when I start to explore, well, what is it that I actually like? Because I've been told for so long about what I should like or what I should look like as a woman who's at various different stages of her life or working in this industry or that industry. It's hard for us, for one, to even just to say, what do I actually like if I kind of take off all of the other expectations that are surrounding me? Secondly, it's trying to understand, what rules am I still following that are actually holding me back? So, this woman maybe that's wearing extra baggy clothing because she's maybe a little unsure of her body and it's changed over the years. And maybe she's wearing some neutral colors because she doesn't want to like make too big of a deal when she walks into a room. What are the rules behind that that are essentially keeping you stuck? Maybe there was a rule that if your body's not perfect, then you don't deserve to show up and look nice or wear clothes that fit you or highlight your body the way it is. Maybe you're wearing neutral colors because you've always been told when you walk into spaces that you don't want to draw too much attention to yourself. You actually don't want to be the center of attention. These are all examples, by the way, of things that my clients have shared with me. So what I find is that these beliefs that we have, whether it's I need to look perfect in order to show up and feel good about myself, I need to keep it neutral so that I don't stand out too much and don't make waves. I need to look a certain way in my industry because that's how everybody looks when I look around, and that must be the way to success if I just kind of show up looking and fitting in like everyone else I see around me. Those beliefs will eventually turn into a fear. So the what I mean is that if I were to walk away from that belief, there's a whole lot of fear there. If I walk into an event and I believe that fitting in and not standing out too much is going to keep me safe because I've been taught all my life, don't make too many waves, just, don't make a big deal of yourself. Well, what happens at the thought of then walking in with an outfit that's really vibrantly colored? There's a lot of fear that comes up based on this belief that it's not okay to do that. And then what do? That belief turns into a fear. It leads to self-sabotage, which is, okay, that's not right. So I'm just going to go back to doing what I was doing because I know everything's going to be fine that way. But then you end up abandoning yourself in the process. So it's one, becoming aware of what are those rules that we're abiding by in the first place. And I do an exercise, and this is an exercise that your listeners have access to. It'll be in the show notes, I believe. But there's an exercise I do with my clients before we ever start, thinking about even looking at clothes. And we identify, what are these rules I've been believing? And some of these rules, Laura, they come from 5-year-old me that was on the playground. Maybe someone said something to you on the playground that sort of rocked your self-concept. These can be things that were shared, or beliefs that were shared in your family or your culture. They can be things that we've perceived from our culture, and even into adulthood as we go into the industries we work in or the circles we surround ourselves in. There's a lot of beliefs that form and decide how we're going to dress instead of us deciding how we're going to show up in the world. And over time, there's so many rules. I mean, maybe you wouldn't be shocked to realize, but for those listening who decide to go through this exercise and start to get curious about what would those rules be for me? What am I believing that keeps me stuck and not allowing to make a change? I'm going to warn you that it's not going to be one or two. It's probably going to be like around 15 or 20. And that's true of me. That's true of every single client I've worked with, and I've worked with hundreds of clients at this point. This awareness of what rules you've created in your mind will keep you stuck. And so that's why when I realized this was happening, this is the first work we do. It's about a month long of setting your vision for yourself based on what you love, not what you've been told to love or what you see around you. It's learning about your body, it's learning about colors, and having some agency in that. And, saying, okay, well, there's some tactical things you can learn about how to dress your body, even though it's changing and it maybe doesn't feel the way it did before. We can learn those. And then this final piece we work through is what we're just talking about now, is your style mindset, which is really understanding where these rules are holding you back. And only after we've done that work to reveal okay, I now see what I've been doing. That is a way, and it's a portal to then start to make different choices. Now, I'm going to say that when you start to realize these rules you've been believing and you realize what a hold it's had on you, you cannot have the expectation that it's going to change in a day, in a week, in a month. Some of these are very long held beliefs. It's an active practice of saying, okay, I'm having this, when I think about trying on something that's more colorful and I think about walking into a room looking this way, that old belief is going to keep nagging me. It's going to keep telling me, no, don't do that. We don't know that that's safe. It has to be an active practice of saying, it's okay. I'm going to leave that rule in the past and I'm choosing to move forward in a different way. And it's just a practice. And so when I'm working with my clients, it's them practicing, whatever they decide their mantra is to be, or, those things that they remind themselves of that this is going to be okay. And it's also me supporting and encouraging them along the way too. So I just talked a whole lot. I'm not sure what thoughts you have about that, but that really was when I discovered what was really holding back someone from making a change. I realized this is actually the gold of, you would think that the clothes and the closet is really the gold of the transformation. This right here is the gold.
Absolutely, it's the gold. And when I'm hearing you say this, first, I love how you talk about them as rules, because
Mm,
that's really what it comes down to. And I think, and I'm thinking as you're talking about, oh, what are some of the rules that I've had or that I might still be living by? And it's like, oh, maybe, maybe this is really about visibility.
yes.
This is a visibility issue, friends. This is like,
Mm-hmm.
we often say, we want to be seen and want to be heard until we have the opportunity to be seen and heard. And then it's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
wait a second. I didn't, maybe not that much. Right.
Yeah.
Or
Uh-huh.
maybe not in this light, or, oh, after I lose 15 pounds, or,
Yeah.
oh,
Mm-hmm.
after I figure out what the heck's happening to my body in this perimenopausal state or menopausal state, right? Like, it's like, oh, I want to be seen, but not until I'm
Yeah.
the way that I want to be or should be. So
100%.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think one of the things I talk about a lot in on my own podcast, in my trainings, is I think there's two flavors of visibility. And, you and I both realize this being business owners, because when you become a business owner or an entrepreneur, you realize, holy cow, it's me being put in the spotlight every day, it seems.
There's a whole lot of
And
visibility there.
there's a whole lot of visibility, and you start to realize where maybe you have weaknesses isn't the right word, but where you have some hesitation to be visible. But I think there's a tendency when I say there's two flavors of visibility. I think there's one level of visibility where it's a little bit of a fake it till you make it, meaning, okay, I see other business owners, I see what they look like when they're up on stage. I'm just going to kind of emulate what I see and I'm going to put that version on. And that's going to give me confidence that it's okay to be visible because I know I'm kind of checking the boxes. I'm looking like how I'm supposed to look as an entrepreneur. Okay. And maybe that can give you a few little ounces of confidence as you get started. But I think then there's another flavor of visibility, which is truly authentic visibility, which is letting people see you for really who you are.
Hmm.
And I think that is where, even though it is the more difficult avenue to take, because when you think about it, okay, I was in branding for 20 years, all right? And it's one thing to, brand a company or even brand another person and say, hey, this is how you need to show up. But then when it becomes you and you're the person who needs to be out there and visible, it's a lot more vulnerable. And what this brings to mind for me when all of my training in branding was that what is a company supposed to do in order to create a great brand for themselves? They stand out, they differentiate, they make themselves unique. Okay, that's great when you're talking about another company. In all of my years in branding and consulting with companies, not once did they say, hey, Ellie, how can you make our company look just like our competitor? Okay. But then when it comes into the frame of yourself, as the visible part of, being a business owner and entrepreneur, that doesn't feel so comfortable, does it? Because we want to go and we want to feel like we fit in. And that is something that is just ingrained in us as humans. We want to fit in, we want to belong, we want to know that we're safe in that way. However, creating a brand for yourself requires that you stand out and you differentiate. And actually, what we most desire to belong actually comes through showing up as your true self. When we show up in a way that is sort of kind of faking it or just putting on what we see others showing up or just trying to make ourselves conform to a certain, and that can be not only in how we dress, but just how we talk and how we go about our days, how we plan our business, everything. When we conform, it actually leaves a shell of ourselves in those interactions, and people really don't come to know us. And you're putting aside, you're almost shoving away that belonging because the belonging comes through letting people see us. It just really feels so vulnerable, but it is so worth leaning into because that's really how you create those connections you want. It's how you attract the clients you want, the friends you want, all of it.
You have been the rock for everyone your entire existence. You are the strong one for everyone else, managing all of the details. You're successful on paper, but you secretly know this is not where you want to be. You're craving more freedom, more fulfillment, more depth. And you most certainly are tired of second-guessing yourself and spiraling yourself into a shutdown. Friend, I know that you are on the edge of your next big move. You just need someone else to help you make sense of it, to get clear about the vision and the plan, to simplify the steps down so you know where to focus your time and your energy, and someone to lovingly call you out on your bullshit when you start doing things the old way. If you feel a little called out, but also a little bit excited or aligned, that's for you, my friend. We can either keep sitting around wondering if you can do it, saying someday, or 6 months from now, you'll be saying, I did it. I've got a seat with your name on it. You gonna come get it? Go to LauraAura.com/mastermind to get started. What are your thoughts/suggestions on the woman that's like, okay, that sounds interesting. I hear you. It's a little nerve-wracking, but I hear you, but I don't even know who I am to begin with. Like women, especially, middle age, most of my clients are in the 45 to 65 range. And so many of them are learning how to navigate this world as themselves because they've been everything to everyone their entire existence. They've always been the go-to person. They're usually the strong ones in the group. And so now that a lot of things have shifted and their willingness to settle has, disintegrated. Now we're standing at this crossroads of like, well, who am I in the first place? How do I know who I am to know how to dress, to show up as my authentic self? How would you coach somebody in that?
Yeah. I mean, my ultimate honest answer would be probably a combination of therapy and what I'm about to tell you, just because I feel like what you just described is exactly what I have gone through, over the last couple of years. I'm 45, almost to be 46 here. It is a really interesting time of life where if you allow yourself to start to pull back the veil of how you've normally been operating and start to look at, well, I can see maybe how I've been operating and maybe from, let's just put it back into the style because we could go so many different directions here. But if you put it back into the style and you go into your closet to get dressed and you say, why am I actually wearing what I'm choosing today? Is it because I really like it and it feels good on my body or it makes me feel great? Or is it because I feel like there's an expectation to show up and to look a certain way, or I know how people are going to be dressing at this event that I'm going to, and so I want to make sure I don't rock the boat too much. But I think it always comes back to that moment of awareness of why? Why am I choosing this and not that? And I think if you allow yourself to dream a little bit and say, okay, as I'm exploring myself, what if I let myself envision an outfit that I might wear to some important event? And if you're someone who's an entrepreneur, maybe it's like showing up on stage or at some important meeting. If you're not an entrepreneur or some other area of life, maybe it's just like showing up at some social event. And if you were to allow yourself just to dream a little bit, what would make you feel most you? What would that outfit look like? What color would it be? What silhouette would it be? This is another exercise I do with my clients when we're working through the vision part. And what is interesting as they're visioning, as they're concocting this most perfect outfit that would feel most like them, you'll hear the shoulds, you'll hear the rules come up. Like, so for example, I've had speakers who they're like, okay, well, the dream outfit for me on stage would be this, that, and the other, but I got to make sure that I don't wear too big of earrings because, it'll affect the mic that I'm wearing. And I got to make sure that there's a place to put the mic pack. And I'm like, okay, I know those things are realities and we got to think about that at some point, but I need you to just put that aside. Or one woman I worked with said, but I got to make sure that whatever color I choose works with any background I might appear on when I'm on stage, because who knows what the backgrounds are going to be of the stages I'm on. If it's another like social event, it's like, well, I kind of know that my friend or these other people that are going to be there are wearing this, so I should probably dress to the level of that. And it's like, wait a second, I'm asking you to come back here. And so I think even in that exercise where we're trying to allow ourselves to dream, we realize that we so easily get sucked back into, I want to wear something that's going to get me praise or get me approval or make sure that I don't rock the boat or I fit in. And so it takes time. I know sometimes it's not just like a overnight thing, but it's worth just keep coming back to self and like, is this actually something I choose or is it something that is someone else's choosing or it's a should for me? The other thing I'll offer here to listeners is that sometimes when we feel like there's a change happening in us and we're getting to this point of like, okay, I'm getting clear on self and I'm feeling like I want to take action. And so almost always the first response is, I should definitely go shopping, like go take advantage of this and take action. That feels very productive. But I would caution you, do not go shopping as your first step. And the reason being is that once you step into that retail environment, things get very confusing. You're getting messages about fear of missing out. You're getting sales that are tempting you. I know I'm very heavily affected by sales, and that sways my opinion of whether it's good for me or not. You've got stylists in the store, which I think are very skilled and talented, but also they don't know who you are or where you're going. They just are commenting on, does that look good on your body? And, but really things can get confusing really quickly. And so you want to take the step of asking first, who is the woman I'm becoming? Get clear and grounded on that. And from that place, then once we're clear on that, then we can start talking about going into the stores. And so this, who is the woman I'm becoming, is the conversation we've been having all to date. It's the visioning. It's understanding where I've been caught up in rules and not showing up as my most true self. It's all of that.
I love this so much because this is the identity work.
Yes.
This is the embodiment. This is, this really reminds me of coming back to your original story where we started here today, which is getting curious and leaning in. I love when things come full circle.
I love that. I love that you just said, I got tingles because, it's funny that, that is essentially the work I'm doing. And I don't think I realized that I was doing that at the time, before I started my business.
Yeah. And so much of it happens in that willingness just to give a little bit of space between deciding and taking an action. Like just that little
it's so
moment.
tempting.
It is just, we're running, we're fast, go to my go-tos because that's what's familiar and I know how to, deal with this stuff. But that pause of, do I actually like this? Yeah. How does this feel on my body? Do I feel good in this? Do I feel, am I trying to suck everything in because that's what I've been told? Oh my gosh, I have zero things that suck things in because I just cannot. It doesn't feel good on my body,
Yeah.
But like just that brief moment of instead of conforming, instead of staying on the same cycle that you know so well, that we're just questioning it a little bit. We're getting
Yeah.
curious. We're saying, is this what I actually want to wear? That's a question that I work with my clients a lot with is, what do I actually want?
Yes. And
And
I think,
these are one of those moments.
yeah, and I think sometimes if there's a listener out there who's like me, so when I was in that moment of I don't like marketing anymore and I know this is not what I want, and I remember working with a coach at that time and she said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And it was terrifying because I said, "I have no clue.
No
I
clue.
I couldn't answer that question." So if someone's thinking that right now, like I'm looking at my closet and you're asking me, what do I want? And I'm having a really difficult time answering that question. One strategy I've used is, well, what don't you want? And to your point, it's like, well, I'm tired of sitting down and feeling like I can't breathe because I like have to sit in a certain way. Okay, well, that's a very small indicator. Okay, what about, I bought something and I invested in it and I spent a lot of money in it. And then I got it home and I was kind of like, I don't really think I like this anymore, but I spent a lot of money on it, so I should.
Yeah.
Okay, there's another little thing. Or it's like, I feel like I'm supposed to be wearing black, or I had another client who was in a professional and in the financial industry, and she's like, everyone who is a leader, they wear a blazer. And she said secretly to me when we were doing our work, I really hate wearing blazers, but I'm worried that if I don't, then people won't take me seriously. And I said, okay, well, there's another thing. We're going to figure out how you can show up looking professional and credible in all the things you want without sacrificing the fact that you don't even like wearing blazers. So I think it sometimes can come in these it can come in small moments where we think it has to be like a total overhaul, but it can happen just in small, it could be I feel like I need to wear heels and I cannot stand wearing heels anymore. So, okay, great. Let's lean into what we can do with flats or sneakers. There's just so many expectations in our shoulds that the curiosity is really going to be the key. And it doesn't have to be big at first. It can happen in smaller ways. Or here's another common one. Women will keep sizes of clothes that they no longer
Mm,
fit into because maybe one day they will fit into it. And I get that because I've been there. And it's like, well, I'm gonna fit back. I'm on a plan and I'm gonna get back into those jeans. Okay, great. But listen, when you walk into your closet and you see clothes that actually don't fit you now, to me, I don't see those as motivators. I see those as little taunters,
yeah.
just looking at you saying, you're not really actually good enough yet. You will be when you get to that size. So let's just wear all these other clothes that we don't really like because, we're still working on getting there. That to me doesn't help your mindset. So if you're hell bent, excuse the swearing, on, getting to a certain size and you do not want to throw away that pair of jeans or that whatever it is, okay, great, but at least get it out of sight, out of mind. Put it in a storage bin where you're not looking at it every day. And you do need to have things right now that make you feel good, that don't feel like, okay, we're just shaming and hiding because I'm not feeling good about what's here. There are things you can wear now that show you deserve to look and feel great now, even though you're not at your preferred size. And so there's so many aspects to this, Laura.
Oh,
But
it's an
these are
onion. I
just
mean,
the most common ones that I hear.
well, I can relate to the story you just shared here so much because I've been on this health journey for the last couple of years and it's like hanging on to things. Also, total side note, anytime that I quote unquote get back into it, my body is completely different and
Yes.
my style and my personality has evolved. So it like you get into it and you're like, I don't even fucking like this. Like, why am I holding on to this? You know what I mean? So
True.
total side note there. But the thing that you just said that I think is really, really important to hone in on is get things that make you feel good right now.
Hmm.
I have very admittedly gotten into this style slump the last few years. Post COVID, I know I'm not the only one.
Mm-mm.
I'm just in comfy, stretchy things. And I'm like, oh, my body has put on weight because I've developed PCOS and the hormones are doing their whatever they do right now.
Yes.
And when I get regulated, when I get back to my weight, then I'll find out what my style is. And meanwhile, I'm showing up to things Now I'm going on
Yeah.
stages and I'm in these oh shit moments of like, I
Yes.
have no idea what my style even is.
Yes.
So I've had to really do some work in saying, this is my body today.
Mm-hmm.
And instead
Yeah.
of making her wrong, instead of talking her down, instead of punishing her of having wonderful things right now until she gets to a different form, I'm
Yeah.
just going to dress, I'm going to show up and I'm going to experiment with the body that I have today because that's
Yeah.
literally all I have.
Yes. And I would suspect that in those years that you didn't even let yourself dream about what your style could be because you didn't think you deserved it.
Yeah.
And this is a very common mindset. And this is a rule. This is one of those rules and expectations that you're only worthy of showing off and looking good and having style if you have a certain size.
Yeah.
And if you don't, well, you should be ashamed of that. And that's a cultural rule that is potentially a familiar rule. Can be even deeper for people if it's in their family, but it's one we have to be aware of. And that's why when I'm working with my clients, I actually do teach about how to dress your particular body type. Now, I know it's somewhat controversial to still be talking about body type styling. The way I see it is understanding the structure of your body. It's actually just, and for those who can't see behind me, I have a wall of art. My mom is an artist, and when I think about learning how to put different silhouettes on your body that suit the structure of your body, to me it's just like finding balance and proportion the way you would as a painter would on a canvas, or that a floral artist would do in putting together an arrangement, or an interior designer. It's about structure and balance, and helping my clients see that, okay, maybe I'm not at the preferred weight, but this is the actual structure of my body, which, by the way, doesn't change. My shoulder measurements are not changing. My chest, unless you've had an augmentation or, some kind of adjustment, that isn't going to change. My hips measurement is not going to change. The shape of your body is the shape of your body. Learning how to put different silhouettes on your body will totally change how you see your body. And time again, we get ourselves into this rut of, well, because I have a belly now and I can't wear this and I can't wear that. And we get so whittled down into all these things we can't wear that we give ourselves no options. And so I love opening my clients' eyes to see, okay, let me teach you about how you can create this balance. And these are the options you have available to you. And let's just give this a try and see how you feel. And it's amazing because they go from, okay, they haven't been dieting, they haven't been changing their body. It's just putting them in some silhouettes that are going to give them more balance top to bottom. And they look in the mirror and they're like, it's like they're looking at a new person.
Yeah.
And that, as someone who has been through the throes of dieting culture and believing my body needs to change in order to be good, that is one of the best gifts I think I can give to my clients, is helping to understand that without changing a single thing, you can feel good and you can love what you see in the mirror.
And ultimately, that's just what we want, right? We just want to feel good in our skin and we want to feel good when we look at ourselves.
I was going to say, to your point, energetically, then, when you find yourself needing to be on stage or wherever it is you're going about, it shifts, it changes the results of your day. It's something I call the closet effect. It's what you choose to put on in the morning. It causes a feeling. And there's brain science that shows that when you have a feeling, good or bad, it activates in your brain and sends chemicals throughout your body. And so on those days when you are in your closet and you put something on, you're like, well, it hides the belly, it hides my butt, and it's fine. That kind of energy is sending chemicals throughout your body. It changes then your actions that you take that day. Maybe you're hiding a little bit. Maybe you're not tackling the hardest things on your to-do list. Maybe you're canceling last minute a coffee meeting you were supposed to go to. Maybe you're hiding at your desk, whatever those things are. And then what are the results of that kind of day? Missed opportunities, missed connections. And when you think about a day in your closet where you did put something on that you're like, okay, maybe my body isn't exactly where I need it to be, but this color makes me feel energized. The way this, fabric feels on my skin, like it changes you. And then your body's being flooded by all these good chemicals. And what kind of decisions do you make on these days? If you can think back to a day where you walked out of your closet feeling pretty good, like I'm a much more happier. I'm kind of like walking on air. I'm a little bit more pleasant to my husband and my kids. I hate to say it, but I'm like, hey, who wants to go and have coffee? Who wants to meet up? Those are the days when I'm wanting to go after the really difficult task on my to-do list that's going to push me a little bit. So, what results do you have then on that day? So, I think we think of clothes often as just something really frivolous. And it is often at the very bottom of a totem pole in terms of our decision making, and maybe rightfully so, given all the decisions we have to make in a day. But when you think about it in this way, the effect that what you choose to put on your body can really change the trajectory of that day, that week, that month, that's meaningful.
Yeah. It meaningful to the nth degree. It just changed your energy is different. You move differently. You attract differently. Your confidence that you're so determined to find or to build, it just starts to flow out of you. It's just it changes the game. But all that came from and stemmed from your willingness to get curious about what feels good in the first place.
It does. And it's not easy, but it's worth it.
Totally. Ellie, I love your approach with this. I love that, yes, we're feeling good on the outside, but we are building, rebuilding, restructuring the feel good on the inside first. And that's really where the true energy comes from. So I want to make sure that everyone knows where to find you. What's the best place to connect with you?
You can always find me on Instagram at style.decoded. I'm also active on LinkedIn, just under my name, Ellie Steinbrink. And I mentioned before a little guide. If you wanted to get curious, if you want to take that next step about getting curious, which by the way, doesn't mean you have to take any action in your closet, because curiosity can just be learning about yourself. But that guide is linked in the show notes. It is called the Style Mindset Reset. Check it out, get curious, see what comes up for you. And of course, if something resonated with you, message me on Instagram, message me on LinkedIn. I love hearing from people and what little wins they had, or maybe aha moments that they had as a result of hearing this.
Absolutely. We will link all that in the show notes. And I've got to know, what does gutsy mean to you?
I think gutsy means honoring yourself. And that's coming from someone who really naturally, or maybe bred to be a people pleaser, bred to believe that my needs maybe don't always come first. I think gutsy is really getting to know yourself and not abandoning yourself.
I don't know about you, but I'm kind of pumped to go back to my closet. Like I'm in this phase where I'm ready to experiment. I'm ready to branch out. I'm really embracing this like comfy, stylish, creative, gutsy side of me. I don't really know what that looks like, but I'm just playing with it. So we'll see what comes of it. I'd love to see some outfits that you put together, something new that you're going to try, a new jewelry piece, a new hairstyle that you're working with. Like, show me the pictures. Send them to me on social. My handle is @thatlauraaura. And as always, until I see you next time, stay gutsy.